boundaries are not about you saying no to other people. It's about you saying yes to yourself. And I want you to really like understand what that means. More like understand what that means. What does it mean for you if you were to set a boundary and set some, and we're going to talk all about it anyway, but how that really means that you're saying yes to yourself. And how would that feel to say yes to yourself for once? Because I bet that's quite even confronting for a lot of people. So, what are boundaries? Well, I'll tell you what they're not. They're not guilt trips. A lot of people will manipulate with a guilt trip to try and make other people feel guilty and guilt them into doing what they want. The whole passive aggressive behavior. Um, you know, that is not how we that's how we try to control people try to control us by making us feel guilty. And it's not hard to make a woman feel guilty, is it, because of the way that we've been brought up. And so and it's not about control, because people think that you set boundaries and control, and that's absolutely not the case. So healthy boundaries are fabulous. Healthy boundaries are empowering. Healthy boundaries are what help you to reclaim your power. I want to talk about why, sort of what's the trap around the boundaries. So the thing is that we are taught from really young age normally by our mothers, by our parents' behavior, by our watching our families, by watching TV, by reading books, all of our upbringing, all of our modeling gives us this, our model of the world, tells us who we are, how we resonate with the world. And pretty much all of it tells us that women exist for the benefit of others. We exist, our existence is we are here to serve others, right? And I serve others. I fucking serve the women in my life, right? I serve women through this platform, through my work, all the things. Nothing wrong with that. However, what is wrong with it is when we don't feel good about it. When it's being used, our guilt around being here to exist for everyone else means that we are going into depletion. We are exhausting ourselves trying to be everything for everyone. We're trying to be the best mother, the best wife, the best, all of the things, because we're told that a good mother is loving and caring and and does everything for her children, and then a good wife shows up all the time and is is sexy and also has to be like a master chef, and we have to show up for our parents, our elderly parents. We have to keep showing up for our grown up kids. They never grow up enough to not need us, right? We are constantly here. We exist just to benefit other people. That's what we're told from a very young age. We are taught it. We watch it on TV. We read it in books, how self-sacrificial women are supposed to be, because those women are the women that succeed, right, in life, because they have all the things and they have the beautiful home and they have the beautiful life, and because they sacrifice for their men. They sacrifice for their children because they are everything to everyone. And let me just tell you that the real power of a woman, of a person, of any person, is in becoming empowered yourself. And the way that you become a really beautiful way to become empowered is to start setting some boundaries, because otherwise, this is why we end up exhausted. This is why we end up in resentment. I can't even tell you. So I used to work for years in retirement living and aged care, and I was all the things, Queensland Regional Manager, blah, blah. I was on the executive leadership team, blah, blah, blah. And when I was coming up, I would see, it's countless, the number of couples and families where I would see that the mother in particular had spent her whole life sacrificing for her kids and sacrificing for her husband, and suddenly was alone, or the couple was alone, and the kids are off. They've been traveling wherever. These parents are trying to follow them, but the kids are they're off doing their own lives, having their own lives. They've got no time left for their parents. And then the parents end up feeling resentful. And in particular, the mothers would feel incredibly resentful because they've sacrificed their whole life for these kids. And then the kids are like, I'm off having a life. And ultimately, that's what you want for your kids, right? You want them to go off and have an awesome life, but not forget you. But they just, you've taught them that. And this is the thing about boundaries, is that we are also teaching our children, when we are consistently sacrificing for our children and making them the center of our universe, we are telling them, we are teaching them that that's all we exist for them. We exist only to belong to them and to sacrifice for them. So our happiness doesn't matter as parents. Okay. And B, we're teaching them that that's how they get to be in the world. So when you have daughters, who are going to end up being mothers, and they will have had the same world role model that you had, and they will resonate in the world in the same way that you do, and they will show up being self-sacrificial. And the other thing is that we teach these kids to be incredibly selfish, and not in a good way, because they believe that the whole world is supposed to show up for them. The whole world is supposed to show up for them. The whole world exists to make them happy, right? Just like mum always made me happy. That was her role. That's what she did. She didn't expect anything in return, so I never have to give her anything. I expect the whole world to turn up like that for me. These are not good things, right? These are not great things that we're teaching. We don't want to teach our children to be like that. There's a value proposition out in the world, right? Where everybody's like, to be valuable, you sacrifice yourself, you fall on your sword, you don't have to say what you really mean, you don't have to show. These are all of the things that we're taught, and that's why we're so fucking shit at setting boundaries, and we're even more shit at, even if we set them, we don't keep them, right? And it's not just with our kids, it's like in the workplace. A lot of us have careers now. A lot of us are, have our own businesses. A lot of women are in ridiculously in amazing roles out in the world, and we're even out there doing all the things, right? Volunteering, like all the things we do as women, because we're so fucking good at it. We're looking after our grandchildren. We're doing all those things. And listen, hey, if that fills you with joy, do not get me wrong. So I don't want you to get this skewed, because I actually love looking after my grandchildren when I'm in a place where I want to, right? Where it feels good, then it's fucking good. If it feels like, the kids are always wanting me to look after these kids and I actually want to have my own fucking life, then it doesn't feel good. Then you need to set a boundary. You need to set a boundary and say, well, actually, I will have them, but I'm not going to have them all the time. Now, when my kids started having kids, it was really young for me, because I was a teenage mum. And so then my eldest son became a teenage dad, right? And not the middle one, but then, Anyway, long story short, I was a super fucking young grandmother, and so was my partner, my husband. And so, we just said to them right out from the get-go, hey, we're just not those grandparents. We're not going to sit around waiting to look after your kids, just so you know. Love that you're having kids. Amazing that we're going to be grandparents, but we're not going to be those grandparents. We're not going to sit around and wait to look after your kids. However, when we're free, we would love to have them, and you can absolutely ask us. And that's what we do. When we're free, we look after them, and we ask for them when we're free, because we love having them around. So that's the difference between when, you set a boundary that works because it makes you feel happy, right? It makes you feel good. You can set a boundary that makes you feel good. So yeah, the other thing is work. Work is a big one. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I digress there. But work is a big one for us as women. We're always like, feeling bad. I remember dropping my daughter to kindy when she was little, and I said to her, she was like, why do you have to go, Mummy? I don't want you to go. And I said, because I've got to get, Mummy's got to go, and because we're going to get, Mummy's going to get you toys, so we can get more toys. And she said, I don't want more toys. I just want you. And I was like, oh my God. And then I realized I should have gone with food and shelter. I should have just said, Mummy has to work because we need food and shelter. But it would have been even more empowering for her to say, because baby girl, I love you, And I actually love work too. And I love you. And when I get back, I'm going to make you a huge priority. But, at the moment, I'm going to go and do this because mummy loves it and it makes mummy happy. That's an even more empowering thing to do for your child and to do for your child and to do for your daughter, right? Is to set a boundary around, hey, I've got to go to work. And I actually want to go to work because I love it. And I was loving my job at that time and I really was loving what I was doing. So setting healthy boundaries is actually a really beautiful way of teaching the people in your life that it's okay that you want to be happy too, and that's okay for them to be happy too, right? So when your children grow up, they're like, oh, I know how to set a boundary because my mum used to do that with me, and it always felt really good, right? Now, what we also, so the thing with respect to a career is we will say to our bosses, it's really good to upfront say, wait, let me just go back a step. When we have a job, often women, because we've had to work our asses off to get there, it is an actual fact that we get paid less than men. It is an actual fact. We get paid less than men. We also have to work harder than men. We do, and that's an actual proven fact also. So we have to work harder, and we know we have to prove ourselves. We've also had to prove ourselves in our family, in our family system. All of our lives, we're taught as women that we have to prove ourselves. So we take that into the workplace, and we feel like we have to consistently prove ourselves worthy. We're consistently trying to prove ourselves worthy to ourselves and to everyone in the workplace and to our bosses in particular. And so what that means is we're really shit at boundaries at work. So we will answer. Women are the best employees. I know this. I was an employer for years. I used to employ all the time, and I would prefer a woman, even if they had kids, over a man a lot of the time. Why? Because women are always trying to prove that they deserve the job, right? And they wouldn't have to with me, but they would always go the extra mile. They would always, women will work from home. They will answer calls in the weekend even when they don't want to. They will, go the extra mile. They will do the extra thing. They'll also, how many times do you have a work office birthday and you're the one stuck with buying the fucking cake? Like, why can't a man do that? Do you know what I mean? They just expect us to do that kind of shit as well as do our jobs and show up and then message you in the middle of the night or send you an email overnight with an amazing idea, and it's like you just keep doing it because you're always trying to prove that you're worthy of this job. And actually it's causing you to be exhausted and potentially resentful of this role. So what you can do then is set healthy boundaries at work and say, these are my hours. This, I log off from this time, and I'm sure you can appreciate that because it's my family time, it's my time that you don't even have to fucking justify it. Just actually the way you can set a boundary, another way you can set a boundary is you just don't. Just stop answering emails after your workday finishes. Stop answering the phone when your boss rings. Just stop doing it. And they'll get the message, right? They'll get the message that you're not there anymore because you've set a really healthy boundary for yourself. And then the really important thing is if you set boundaries, whenever you set boundaries with whoever you set boundaries, this could be with your, in your relationship, you might set a boundary, then make sure you stick to it, right? Stick to it and enforce it. But what it doesn't mean is that you make someone else suffer. So quite often we're really good at, and we would have seen this modeled, right? Where we will set a boundary for our relationship. So we might say, well, I'll cook if you clean, if you do all the dishes. And then the dishes don't get done. And so then what we do is we will make them suffer. So we will say, give them the silent treatment. Or we will do the dishes and we'll huff and puff and throw things around. Or we'll withhold sex. Or whatever. Like, it's just dumb shit. Like, that is not reinforcing a boundary. That's just you making someone else suffer over a boundary that you set. And, or you go out with your mates just to show them, fuck them kind of thing. But you're feeling shit about that. Right? All that does is make you feel shit because you had a boundary They didn't keep it. And then now you're starting to feel you have to enforce it by being passive aggressive and making them suffer. That doesn't help anyone either. So what you have to do is just reinforce the boundary. Hey, do you remember we talked about this? You were going to do the dishes. I'd really appreciate it if you get it done. And then just don't do it, or do it. Do whatever feels like you want to do. Like if you're not prepared to reinforce it, well, and put up with some dishes being on the sink until he decides to go and do it. Well, that's on you, but don't just nag. Don't just, suffer. Don't make him suffer or her suffer, your partner suffer. There's just no point in that. Same with your kids. You tell them, well, my expectation is you guys are going to always do the dishes. Here's the roster, da-da-da. They don't do it. You get the shits. You throw things around. You carry on like a pork chop. That is not reinforcing the boundary in a healthy way. We need to set healthy boundaries, and then we need to reinforce them in healthy ways as well. And you don't become agreeable either, and then just let people, walk all over you and go, oh, okay, well, I'll just do it this time. Because then you're teaching them that you're not able, you have the capacity, you're not able to reinforce your boundary, and then you're letting them walk all over you again, right? So making sure that, no, you stand firm in it. You remind them once, like, hey, I need you to go and do that, right? And with kids, you can always, have some kind of repercussion, whether that's, well, you don't get your pocket money. We had that boundary agreed earlier. You didn't do the dishes, so now you guys don't get to go out on Saturday. We'd already agreed that, and then you just keep to it, stick to it, right? And so, yeah, that's really what I want to talk about. I've also got a really awesome little, kind of boundary making way that I challenge you to ask yourself, what are you tolerating? Just ask yourself in every moment, today, this week, next week, ask yourself, challenge yourself and ask yourself, what are you tolerating that you're not happy with? Let your feeling about the situation be your guide, right? So however you feel, if you feel resentful because you are having to do something for your family member that you really don't want to, then that's your guide. The way that you feel about a situation is your guide. If you're feeling resentful because your boss asks you to do extra shit but isn't going to pay you any extra, then don't do it, right? Set a boundary. No, I don't, that's not right for me. I don't want to take on that additional work because it doesn't feel right to me. I've been in this position myself where I had somebody left the organization, my boss left, and then I ended up taking her role and my role for no extra pay, and it was supposed to be for like a 3-month term, and I ended up doing that role for 2 years because I never set the boundary. If I'd straight up said, yeah, look, I'm happy to do it for a month, and then I'm going to need you to make a decision around whether you're going to increase my pay or hire someone else or whatever, and I'm happy to apply for that. If I'd set that boundary up front, I wouldn't have had in that situation. And then I didn't, even if I didn't set it up front, I should have at some point gone forward and said, actually, I'm still doing this role. We're 3 months in, and I haven't seen any of what you spoke about and what you promised, and I'm still doing 2 roles at less than half the pay, so that's the thing, is that we will just continue to accept for ourselves, and it will become their new norm. Because remember, when you don't set boundaries, you're not just telling yourself, you're also telling those people what you will tolerate. You are teaching people how to treat you. You are teaching people and tolerating whatever it is that they're putting out for you. And it's just so empowering when you can just step up and go, actually, that's not cool with me. And the reason why you want to do it, guys, is not because it's exhausting. It's also because you will feel better. And when you feel better, you attract more good energy into your life. The better you feel, the less resentful, the less you live in guilt, the less you live in shame, the less you live in all that shit that you don't want to feel, the crappy shit you feel. If you let your feelings be your guide, the more good shit you will bring into your life, If you haven't looked it up you know, look up Hawkins emotional scale, and that will tell you where you vibrate. And so if you, this is why you have to set boundaries, because it will make you feel better, it will bring more goodness and all the joy into your life, and it will help other people feel better. People need boundaries. You know how we always say kids need boundaries? Absolutely, kids need boundaries, people need boundaries. It helps people know where they stand, it helps you to feel good, it helps you to take back your power, it stops people from taking advantage of you. It will make you feel so much better, and you'll actually feel like a weight's lifted off your shoulders when you can just speak your truth and have boundaries, really beautiful, healthy boundaries that you enforce in your life. So, challenge for you, going out in the world today, whenever you're watching us, I appreciate you, and I challenge you today to ask yourself, what are you tolerating? And then do something about it. And I absolutely love having you here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please comment, flick me a heart, flick me at anything, so we know, I know that what you're picking up, what I'm putting down, and that this shit is valuable to you. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, beautiful Paulette. So lovely to have you here too. All of you that are here and take the time to come and watch this whenever you are. I so appreciate it. Have a beautiful long weekend if it's your long weekend, and I will talk to you again soon. Biggest loves.